Strong language from President Xi and U.S. Vice President Pence as two leaders clash on trade. Public prosecutor charged with indecent assault jumps to his death.
Good evening. President Xi Jinping and U.S. Vice President Mike Pence traded barbs during a summit of world leaders today. The two outlined competing visions for global leadership as a tit-for-tat trade war and other tensions between them simmer. Alan Buknia reports.
The two are in Papua New Guinea, which is hosting the APEC meeting of world leaders. Mike Pence is there in place of Donald Trump, who did not make the trip. He came out with guns blazing, accusing China of intellectual property theft, unprecedented subsidies for state businesses, and setting up barriers to foreign companies.
The United States, though, will not change course until China changes its ways. We've taken decisive action to address our trade imbalance with China. We've put tariffs on $250 billion in Chinese goods, and we could more than double that number. But we hope for better.
Pence also took a swipe at China's global infrastructure drive, called the Belt and Road Initiative. He said it involves low-quality projects that saddle developing countries with debt they can't afford, leaving them beholden to China.
Do not accept foreign debt that could compromise your sovereignty. Protect your interests, preserve your independence, and just like America, always put your country first.
Xi, who spoke before Pence, anticipated many of the criticisms. He said countries are facing a choice between cooperation and confrontation as protectionism and unilateralism spread. He called it win-win progress versus a zero-sum game. Xi and Trump are scheduled to meet at a G20 summit in Argentina later this month, where it's hoped there will be a thaw in relations. In Washington, Trump said a thaw is not a foregone conclusion.
China wants to make a deal. They sent a list of things that they're willing to do, which was a large list, and it's just not acceptable to me yet.
The stark words from the leaders will likely be unwelcome news for financial markets, which had been hoping for a warming of ties. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
Also at APEC, the chief executive says women can be a solution to Hong Kong's labor shortage problem. Carrie Lam made the comments during a panel at the APEC summit. Caleb Bloom has that story.
More women should join the workforce. That remark was from Chief Executive Carrie Lam as she lent her views on the workforce of the future at the APEC CEO Summit. She mentioned that the importation of workers is a sensitive issue. With a low employment rate of 2.8%, as well as an aging population, Hong Kong faces the problem of insufficient labor.
Over half of the university undergraduates are now women. Over half of the medical students are now women. But the women labor participation rate is actually not high at all. It's only 51%, the overall average, which is significantly below other Asian economies.
Carrie Lam did mention that the government would need to roll out new measures to support working women.
That's why I need to roll out a lot of family-friendly practices, childcare policies and initiatives, and recently extended another 4 weeks of paid maternity leave in order to keep the women in the workforce.
The chief executive also stressed the importance of developing the city's edge in the area of innovation and technology. Hong Kong has introduced a tech talent scheme to attract more talent on innovation and technology, said Carrie Lam, while the Greater Bay Area will give Hong Kong a boost in this field.
What we now call the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area will provide much better solutions and future for Hong Kong's development in R&D.
Technology is changing the world, and the younger generation must be more adaptable to face changes and grab opportunities available to them, Lam noted. Caleb Bloom, TVB News.
Here in Hong Kong, a senior public prosecutor charged with indecent assault jumped to his death today while on bail. Christy Lung with the details.
Police officers arrived in Hampton Place, a private residential estate in Tai Kok Tsui. At 10 a.m., a security guard called the police after a man fell from the building and died. The victim was apparently senior government counsel Vincent Wong, who faced 4 counts of indecent assault. The 49-year-old made his first appearance at the Eastern Magistrates Courts on Wednesday. He allegedly assaulted 3 female colleagues between December 2014 and April this year at the Queensway's government offices in Amity. He was released on a $2,000 bail and was due to go before the court in January. Initial investigations show Wong suffered from depression. In the suicide note, he revealed being under pressure due to the recent assault case and acknowledged he had caused harm to others. He added there were also family issues to deal with. In a statement, the Department of Justice expressed its profound sadness after learning about the death of Vincent Wong. The department says it will provide all the necessary assistance to his family. Christy Lung, TVB News.
Police and customs officers have seized 60 kilograms of suspected cannabis buds in a container ship. In a joint operation, 51 bags of suspected drugs were seized, with an estimated street value of $14 million. Police are trying to trace the origin of the drugs. There's no evidence showing the captain or crew are involved. No one has been arrested so far. Customs officers say the ship came from South America and arrived in Hong Kong yesterday. U.S. President Donald Trump heads to Northern California today to see the devastation from the deadliest U.S. wildfire in a century. This is the death toll from the disaster climbed to 71, with more than 1,000 people still missing.
The total number of human remains located and collected at this point to 71. Of the 8 that were located today, 7 of them were found in Paradise. All were inside structures. 1 was found in Magalia. The current list of unaccounted for individuals stands at 1,011, which is an increase from yesterday of 380. I want you to understand, though, that this is a dynamic list. It will fluctuate both up and down every day.
And still to come in our newscast, the police commissioner promises probe into hospital prisoner escape and defends officer who shot suspect in Sham Shui Po MTR. The wreckage of a missing Argentina sub is found.
Welcome back to TVB News. Police Commissioner Stephen Lowe says that the female officer who shot an armed man inside an MTR station last week did follow proper guidelines in firing her weapon. He also says the force is investigating how a prisoner managed to escape from police yesterday while at Queen Mary Hospital. Kana Chu reports.
This morning, following the passing out parade at Hong Kong Police College, the police chief spoke to reporters on the city's crime and security issues. This included the male prisoner who escaped police custody through a bathroom ceiling at Queen Mary Hospital yesterday. Sources say the culprit was not handcuffed at the time.
If any officer is found to contravene any guidelines or established procedure, we will take follow-up actions. We are doing our best to locate the wanted person.
Lowe also noted the arrangement for patrol officers deployed at the Sha Tau Kok border point will be reviewed. At present, the force only patrols beyond the area's net fencing when intelligence is received. Earlier this month, a report alleged that members of the Guangdong Border Defense Corps have occupied and used a plot of land which is technically in Hong Kong for 6 years. Hong Kong and Shenzhen authorities are now discussing how the piece of land at the Sha Tau Kok border should be defined. Until a consensus is reached, the mainland has agreed to stop using the land in question for now. Lowe was also asked about the female police officer who fired her gun at a knife-wielding man inside Sham Shui Po MTR station last Wednesday. He said the officer had adhered to safety guidelines and procedures in the incident. He also noted it is not easy for officers to make correct decisions in just 2 or 3 seconds and appealed to the public for their understanding. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Tongcheng residents say they're seeing fewer tourists than before, and they say it's a sign that new measures to control the flow of visitors from the mega bridge is having an effect. Our Pinky Wong has that story.
Tongcheng has been a popular spot for tourists coming into Hong Kong via the mega bridge. New measures such as diverting crowds to Sunny Bay seem to be working in bringing down the numbers to Tongcheng. And some Tongcheng residents appear to be satisfied.
First couple of days it was like the crowd was a lot, but I think now it's settled down. I don't see much crowd here now. See, like earlier Tongcheng was quite more residential, and people choose to live in Tongcheng because it was like away from the crowd. The time goes, maybe people get adjusted to it.
In Tongcheng city center, barricades are put up around steps to stop tourists using them as seats. Police officers are stationed near B6 bus station, which caters for the mega bridge, to check if there are illicit tour groups. Crowd control measure is now being implemented in this area near the cable car station. Tour groups that used to queue outside the station are now being diverted to this location, closer to the coach's drop-off area. How do businesses in the area feel about the situation?
In terms of like the customers flow, like I can see a lot of people walk past here. Yeah, I can see that, but like business-wise, it helps a lot.
However, in Sunny Bay, where more of the bridge travelers are diverted to, not everyone's happy.
The buses are super full, and we don't get tables at the restaurant, and there's a lot of people everywhere. It's frustrating that it's not managed very well.
Besides visiting Tongcheng and Sunny Bay, this tour group chose to visit To Kwa Wan. Timothy Choi from the Travel Industry Council believes Tongcheng will soon return to the old days without too many tourists. He also says most mainland travel agencies are now aware of Hong Kong's rules and regulations regarding tour businesses. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
Overseas again, and the wreckage of a Navy submarine from Argentina has been found 1 year after it vanished with 44 crew on board. A private company located the ARA San Juan 800 meters below the ocean surface. The vessel only had a 7-day supply of air when it last reported its position on November 15, 2017. The crew was ordered to return to shore after it complained that water was spilling into the submarine. Argentina gave up hope of finding survivors after an intense search aided by 18 different countries.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he's finished writing answers to questions asked by the Mueller investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election.
I was asked a series of questions. I've answered them very easily. Very easily. I'm sure they're tricked up because, they like to catch people. Gee, was the weather sunny or was it rainy? He said it may have been a good day. It was rainy, therefore he told a lie. He perjured himself. Okay, so you have to always be careful when you answer questions with people that probably have bad intentions.
It was Trump's latest swipe at the Mueller probe, which he calls a witch hunt that should never have happened. The year-and-a-half-long investigation has produced guilty pleas and convictions from several former Trump aides. Trump says he hasn't turned over the answers yet, but expects they will be delivered sometime next week. Trump also insisted he wrote the answers himself, not his lawyers.
People have to behave, and they have to we're writing up rules and regulations.
CNN reporter Jim Acosta is grateful after a judge in the United States gave him temporary access to the White House until his lawsuit is resolved. But U.S. President Donald Trump warns his administration will no longer tolerate rude journalists.
Journalists need to know that in this country, their First Amendment rights, freedom of the press, are sacred. They're protected in our Constitution. And, throughout all of this, I was confident, and I felt that this would be the result at the end of the day, that our rights would be protected to continue to cover our government and hold our leaders accountable. And beyond that, on that note, that's my cue to go back to work.
People have to behave, and they have to we're writing up rules and regulations to make our position. You can't take 3 questions and 4 questions and just stand up and not sit down. Decorum. You have to practice decorum. But I've instructed my people, when they're not treated properly, you have the right to just leave anytime you want.
Right after the White House withdrew Acosta's press pass last week, CNN filed a suit on the basis it violated his right to free speech. The White House barred him access for being rude and disrespectful. It alleges Acosta wouldn't allow other reporters a chance to ask questions during a press conference with President Trump. It also accused him of being disrespectful to a female staffer who tried but failed to take a microphone away from him.
Because it's a hoax. That's enough.
And finally, Elvis Presley, baseball legend Babe Ruth, and former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia were posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It is the highest honor given to an American civilian. Trump gave Elvis Presley's award to Jack Soden. He's the CEO of Elvis Presley Enterprises. Babe Ruth's grandson, Thomas Stevens, accepted the award on behalf of his grandfather. Then 2 NFL Hall of Famers were also presented the award. They include Roger Staubach, who played for the Dallas Cowboys, and Alan Page. He was elected to the Minnesota Supreme Court after a career with the Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears. And that is a wrap of our news.